Hey, this is Ryan of Happy Healthy Vegan. So big shout out to my longtime moderator, Peter, for sending me this video. He'd been telling me for quite a while now that he found some guy just going off about how vegans and vegetarians have smaller brains compared to meat eaters. I'm going, what the hell? I mean, how does that work out? You start eating plants and your brain gets smaller? Like, how long does this take? Does it happen right away? Does it take decades? Or is it even real? This could be a bunch of just misinformation, which is normally the case when I hear these extraordinary claims from what seems like anti-vegan propaganda. So let's jump right in and find out, is it true that vegans have smaller brains?
Vegetarians have smaller brains. This is seen in humans, that the less a human eats meat, then the smaller the brain becomes.
All right, as wacky and zany as that sounds, he just made an empirical claim there. It's not just an opinion, at least it shouldn't be. This is something that we can see if it's true or not, so let's hear him out.
The brain is so dependent on the nutrient density that comes from animal-sourced foods that it will suffer when it doesn't get them.
So now he's telling us the causal mechanism for the vegan brain shrinkage, that our brains not get enough of this nutrient density that comes from animal-based foods.
It's a real thing, and why does depression go up so much when people stop eating animal-sourced foods? It's because you are depriving your brain of what it needs.
All right, you heard it here first, guys. This guy knows a lot about me, apparently. He knows that my brain is smaller than average and I'm depressed. What other things is he asserting that vegans have or are likely to have? I mean, sure, first of all, I couldn't figure out who this guy was. I did a Google reverse image search for him, and it just came, some more YouTube videos, shorts came up of this guy, but it wasn't for his channel. I still have no idea who this dude is. So if any of you guys happen to know who he is, please help me out. Leave a comment down below. I just want to know. But anyway, when I'm watching this video, I'm thinking, why is this guy even saying this for? Is he just making this up on the spot or what? But no, apparently there's a book that came out not that long ago which says exactly this. It's entitled Why Vegans Have Smaller Brains and How Cows Reverse Climate Change. Well, we've talked many times on this channel about the negative impacts of animal agriculture, particularly for greenhouse gas emissions, so we won't get into that here. If you're curious, I'll put a link to some other videos. You can check it out. But anyway, what we want to focus on here is this vegan brain shrinkage thing. And as this summary of the book says, an Oxford University study found that the less animal food you eat, the more your brain shrinks with age. Oh, really? So it really makes it sound like this Oxford University study really looked at vegans compared to non-vegans and saw that those of us vegans, at least on a vegan diet, who ate no meat, our brains were smaller than a control group of meat eaters? Well, I want to check this out. All right, so here's that Oxford University study that the authors of that book, Why Vegans Have Smaller Brains, based their claims on. It was published in the Journal of Neurology back in 2008. Its title is Vitamin B12 Status and Rate of Brain Volume Loss in Community Dwelling Elderly. Not hearing anything about vegans or meat eating yet, but let's check it out some more. So in the abstract, it says the study's objectives to investigate the relationship between markers of vitamin B12 status and brain loss volume per year over a 5-year period in an elderly population. Again, not seeing anything about meat eating or vegans or vegetarians here. Let's see what they say about the methods helps us out some more. It says a prospective study of 107 community dwelling volunteers aged 61 to 87 years without cognitive impairment at enrollment. Nope, not seeing anything again about vegans or vegetarians. All right, so let's jump to the results. Maybe there's something here about how vegans' brains are tiny. Results. The decrease in brain volume is greater among those with lower vitamin B12 and some other biomarker levels at baseline. So if this is truly the Oxford University study that the authors of Why Vegans Have Smaller Brains used to make their claim in the title of their book, and we have every reason to believe this is indeed it, how? There's nothing in here, from at least what we can see in the abstract, there's no mention of vegans or meat eating. It's about measuring B12 levels in an elderly population. And I wish I still had access to Sci-Hub. I haven't used it for a few months. It's the way you can kind of sort of quasi-legally view all these research articles that are usually behind paywalls. Well, it's not working, at least today. So if I had access to it, I wanted to sort through the article and see if they even mentioned the word like vegan or vegetarian or even the word meat. Well, I couldn't do that, like I said. So I did the next best thing. I found someone who went through and read the article before on Reddit, and they confirmed what I suspected. So 3 months ago, Everglades77 said the authors blatantly misrepresent the research as I suspected. Their claim that vegans have, quote, smaller brains is based on the study that we were just looking at. And here Everglades says it has nothing to do with vegans, as I suspected. Doesn't even have the word vegan or meat in it, and doesn't compare meat eaters versus vegans at all. And as we saw in the methods and conclusions, it only looks at B12 levels and brain shrinkage. So how in the bloody hell could the authors of this Why Vegans Have Smaller Brains book even have a book with that title, if that title is based on this Oxford study? Because that title doesn't follow. They didn't study vegans. They didn't study vegan brain size. They didn't study the amount of meat you ate and correlate that with brain size or brain shrinkage. It's just they just assuming that, oh, if you have low B12, the only reason why you have low B12 is because you're vegan, because you're eating all this meat, you're going to have high B12 levels, which is totally not the case. As we know, about 40% of Americans are low in B12. And furthermore, these authors seem to be assuming that if a person's vegan, they're going to have low B12 levels. There's no way that a vegan could ever have sufficiently strong B12 levels, because it's impossible. Like, haven't they ever heard of supplementation? And you know, in this modern information age, I think most vegans know that you should probably take a B12 supplement. This isn't like the 70s or 80s or anything like that. And speaking on a personal level, I've been sharing with you guys my blood labs for like a decade plus, and you've seen my B12 levels. They're strong. They kick ass. And I'm not like some kind of freak of nature. I mean, I take supplements, and many other vegans do. In fact, there's studies that show that modern vegans who eat properly and supplement have just as strong B12 levels as meat eaters can.
It's a real thing. And why does depression go up so much when people stop eating animal source foods? It's because you are depriving your brain of what it needs.
Well, according to these findings from the Adventist Health Study, the matched subjects who ate meat, including poultry and fish, were more than twice as likely to become demented as their vegetarian counterparts, and vegans were included in that vegetarian group.
When people stop eating animal source foods, it's because you are depriving your brain of what it needs.
Indeed, he's right. You're depriving the brain what it needs to develop dementia. And by not eating meat, you're also depriving your brain and body of group 1 and 2A carcinogens, as well as lowering your risk of dying of cardiovascular disease, the leading cause of death. But no, you have some book authors blatantly misrepresent research and make this false claim based on zero evidence from the study that they're citing that they think proves what they're saying. Zero evidence to say that vegans' brains are shrinking and the less meat you eat, the more your brain shrinks. Study didn't show any of that in any way, shape, or form. Like I said, they didn't even have the word vegan, vegetarian, or meat in the study at all. And unfortunately, the masses read this book and don't take the time to read through this giant study that the whole book's hypothesis centers around, to find out that the study doesn't prove anything. So these people go on and repeat crap like this.
Vegetarians have smaller brains. This is seen in humans, that the less a human eats meat, then the smaller the brain becomes.
No, absolutely not, Mr. Nameless Dude here. As we have seen, there is absolutely zero scientific evidence suggesting anything remotely like what he's saying here. In fact, that study only showed a connection between low B12 levels and brain shrinkage. So if anything, this guy, if he was sincere or actually knew what the study showed, should be sounding the warning bells. Hey, people, take your B12 supplements or else your brain's going to shrink. But no, these guys are completely disingenuous and want to scare people away from eating plants, and will yell out to the entire internet that vegans have shrinking brains. I knew when Peter, my moderator, first told me about this dude sounding off about vegans shrinking brains, I knew it was going to be complete crap. I didn't know how exactly, but now we see exactly what happened. And again, I have to ask why, like I do in most of my videos. Why? Why do people continually keep on lying about vegan diets and all these horrible things that are untrue. Just do a little fact checking. I'm not like some super smart researcher guy. I'm a music producer, but I know how to follow a trail of logic and a trail of like information, trying to find the source of what is said here. In this case, how vegans have shrinking brains, and tracked it back to a book and tracked their claim to a study which didn't prove the title of their book. It's not that hard to do, but unfortunately it's out there now. If you just search vegan brain shrinkage, it's out there, and there's really no way to put Pandora back in the bottle there. And that's where I come in. I try my best to make response videos. Mike the Vegan does stuff like this too, but I don't think there's enough of us to counter all that misinformation, but it keeps us busy, I guess. Anyway, leave your questions and comments down below. What do you think? Do you think, despite what I said here, that you as a vegan have a really small brain compared to your meat-eating friends? Do you seem like way less together, way less sharp and intelligent than your meat-eating buddies? Let me know down below. And if you happen to think everything I said here is wrong, and you truly, sincerely believe, based on whatever evidence like the study or that book, that vegans indeed have shrinking tiny brains, please come to my Friday live stream, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Be civil, and perhaps we can have a conversation. So until then, I'll see you guys Friday, and remember, it doesn't suck being vegan.